So, Joe, it's awesome to have you here, man. Why don't we get into you a little bit? I'm fascinated by you. If somebody were to ask, bar, coffee shop, whatever, who you are, what would you tell them the answer to that is?
I'm gonna hit do not disturb. What is the answer to who I am? I would say I'm a pretty regular guy. Grew up, I grew up in Queens, New York. I work really hard. I have tremendous gratitude just for being alive.
Hmm.
I love motivating people. I'm fairly boring actually. I don't play golf, I don't party, I don't hang out. I just work and motivate people. That's what I do.
No shit, man. All right, so let's move it to the and I like it. You don't fuck around, which I like. Let's move it to the what you do for a living question. So you motivate people, right? So how would you so get into that a little bit. If somebody asks, what you do. Expound.
I've always had the ability to motivate people. I even at a very young age, I could take my friends and convince them to play hooky, and skip school for the day. I could convince them that we're building a BMX track and we're going to rip up this park with shovels and rakes and ultimately get in trouble. I I have an uncanny ability to get people to do things they might not want to do.
Hmm.
And in this part of my life, later in life, it's really centered obviously on health and wellness, getting folks to eat more salad and do more burpees.
So, how do you, if you had to describe it, like let's say you were teaching me to be you for a day, how do you describe or how do you really motivate somebody to do something that they don't want to fucking do? Where do you start with shifting that mindset?
Look, I think we're all selling all day, every day. If we want to be successful, we're selling to our spouses, to our kids, to our bosses, to our teammates.
Yeah.
And I've honed that skill on selling the outcome,
Ah,
not the process. Like it's you're gonna feel great, you're gonna look great, you're gonna want to do more of it, you're gonna meet a bunch of people. The way you do it, the way you do the hard thing that you don't want to do, and none of us want to do it, is you get a date on the calendar that scares you. So, what do I mean by that? If you and I had an upcoming UFC fight that we were going to compete in, we're going to start waking up early. We're going to start training. We're going to put down the glass of wine. We're not going to eat the cookie. We're going to go to bed early. Like you've got to have something that scares you in the future and forces you to do the work you don't want to do. So,
hmm.
I happen to be really good at putting dates on the calendar for people.
How do you know what date to choose? How do you know how far ahead to
Well,
plan?
for me, it's easy, right? For me, it's is it an upcoming Spartan race, Tough Mudder? Get somebody to sign up for one of our events. But hang on one second. My little dog, my new pal Waffles, who I'm going to introduce you to, hang on, is making a mess in here.
You say his name is Waffles?
The name is Waffles. This is Spartan Waffles. Just adopted this guy. He's a rescue, and he is not feeling great. Yeah. See that guy? He's a 50-pound monster. Um, but he's touch and go if he's gonna make it or not. We'll see. Here he goes. He's coughing.
Oh fuck
Hang
yeah.
on, bear with me. All right. The question was how do I know what date to put on the calendar? How does the victim, we'll call him a victim, know? For us, it's easy. Spartan and Tough Mudder, we have dates of events, right? So we could line up with folks. But if it was you that I was helping to motivate, I would challenge you to say, like, all right, listen, let's just say May 5th, you and I are running a 5K. And it's mid-April. We got to start training for May 5th. Or, hey, me, you, and five of our friends, the next 5 days, we're going to see who could do as many burpees as possible between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. every morning. Honor system. We're going to tally it up and fight. Like somehow creating some fun, some excitement, some gamification around the things we don't want to do, because ultimately no one's ever said, I wish I didn't do that work. I wish I didn't wake up early. I wish I didn't get after it and get healthier. You know what I mean? No one says that.
Not looking back, but in the moment, it's like I wish I didn't have to wake my ass up right now. That's for damn sure. So
That's
it's
right.
like, how do you get past that? Like, let's say, and I like the accountability that you incorporate with your buddies, right? Because it's the honor system. How do you really get past that moment of fuck? I don't want to do this right now. What do you do to get past that
You could
zone?
lie. You could lie to yourself. It's a trick that a lot of Olympians and business people use. You could say to yourself, "Look, this this guy wants to join this conversation
Let him
desperately.
in, man. Let him in.
How do we get you waffles? How do we get you to do things you don't want to do? Well, what you do, number one, is you tell as many people as possible that you're going to be doing something. And when your reputation's on the line that you've committed to, you don't want to look like a fraud. I don't want to look like a fraud. So I end up doing it because, I committed to it publicly. Number two, accountability partners. So right now, Waffles is my accountability partner here. He is making sure I keep my hands off the table because he continues to nibble at them. But imagine if you and I were working out together early morning, we're going to hold each other accountable. I know you're showing up at my garage that morning. Um, Number three, lie to yourself. Like I said earlier, I learned this from a lot of Olympians, a lot of business people, which is, all right, you don't want to do the 300 burpees. Tell yourself we're just going to do 5 today. 5 leads to
Mm,
10, 10
mm.
leads to 20. Before you know it, you got your 300 done. Very rare that you'll actually walk out of the garage and only do 5, even though you told yourself you were going to do 5. Um, Celebrate the win when you're done. When we're done with the burpees, let's tell everybody we did it. Let's tell ourselves. Let's look in the mirror and say that was friggin' awesome,
Mm.
because you want some positive reinforcement, right? You want that process to be repeated again.
Which I think is
Sorry.
important even in business context too, man. Like I had a huge win recently. I'm looking for ways to celebrate, and it's kind of against my nature. I want to just keep on working, keep on pushing new goals, they focusing on what can be instead of what is. And so I'm still learning to be able to sit in the moment as opposed to always striving for something. How do you know how to
Welcome.
reward yourself, man? That's an interesting problem that arises when it comes to this, to create that feedback.
Well, here's the thing: is complacency is the devil. Like you had that business win. Um, People that have a fitness or sports win. Conor McGregor, great example. Rocky Balboa, great example. You win, and then your natural, instinct is to start to relax, enjoy the moment, go on vacation, get silk pajamas. That is the beginning of the end. Um, you've got to stay hungry, my friend, right? You got to stay hungry. Hang on one second, because I'm about to cook this guy and turn him into a friggin' barbecued dog. Give me a second. I'll be right back.
All right, man.
They gave me they gave me some drugs for the dog, and so I haven't been able to walk him, I was doing like 2, 3, 4 miles in the morning to kind of get the edge out of him, but I can't do it now because he's on these drugs. And so when the drugs wear off, he's like a crazy person.
Ah, it's all the built up energy, eh? Well,
And by the way, it's a great discussion because that's what happens to us.
how
We are
so?
not a, we're not a lot of fun to be around if we don't burn off that energy, right? We've got to move blood.
Mhm.
We've got to go for long walks, do the push-ups, do the burpees, because if we don't and we sit indoors all the time, we're not fun to be around.
I agree with that. Yeah, me myself, I gotta get out more because I've been working too fucking much. And so
Yeah.
it's again, it comes down to building the habits, right? And lying to yourself to do it is an interesting way. Reminds me of like BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits, right? I think you're familiar with Genius Network. And so you start with even just 5, and then you reward yourself, which is something I need to work on. And a lot of people need to work on to complete that feedback loop and associate positive emotions with it instead of letting yourself succumb to the I'll just keep on working, or I'll sit inside all day and see what happens with that. But how do you form the new habits, man? How do because like you're a beast. So how do you really start to become a beast when you're habituated to be relatively sedentary in terms of working nonstop? How do you start to shift
Well,
that?
you're not, you're, when you say that, it makes you think that just a few of us are leaning towards sedentary. But the reality is that every one of our brains, mine included, is constantly telling us to not do the hard work,
Right.
to not eat the low calorie healthy food. Our brains are saying, eat the ice cream, stay up late,
Yeah.
don't wake up early for the gym, don't go outside, it's too dangerous. Don't like we've got to fight that and rewire our brains. And you rewire your brain by doing tough shit over and over and over and celebrating those rewards, either explicitly or implicitly. Like you feel really good when you get that workout done in the morning. You feel really good when you take that cold shower. Relish in that moment and start to retrain your brain.
How do you start though? You retrain your brain is the way to put it, but then how do you begin?
Get the date on the calendar for you and your entire audience. I'm giving you as many free entries to a Spartan race as you want. Have as many as you want. You get the date on the calendar and you will start doing the work. That's it. It's not a podcast. It's not a book. I love books. I love podcasts. I love conferences. They don't do it. You have to have a date on the calendar.
And you're talking about painting a beautiful vision of what it can be. So you've got that's that thing to strive for,
Well,
right?
that, but also physically signing up. Physically signing
Right.
up and
Easily
telling all your
accountable.
friends,
Yeah.
September 2nd, we are running Spartan Race. Like we're doing it.
Hmm.
Now what? Now the rubber meets the road. You got to get to work.
When it comes to painting that picture though, because yes, you got to be held accountable, and you can artificially manufacture that by setting a date and or actually setting the date in this case. But when it comes to visualizing the win, are you a proponent of that? How do you know what to visualize in order to get the motivation that you need to begin, especially at the start?
I don't imagine we got, 1.3 million people will register for one of our events this year. I don't know if they're visualizing the win.
No?
I think they're scared on what the hell this thing's going to be and are they going to be able to do it? And oh my God. And that fear is
Hmm.
driving change. That fear is getting them to work out, to go to bed, right? Like, so I don't mind that. Now, if they're smart, they're visualizing the win, like a high level athlete would, because they want to perform really well. But I would say the bulk of our people, the ones that were nervous to begin with, they're living in fear up until the date of the event.
Hmm. And painting I think the pro would also paint the picture of what would happen if you didn't do it too. But you're
Yeah.
saying that
Yeah.
if you let the fear drive you. So you set the date, you've got no option. You're doing it on this date, whether you like it or not. And therefore your habits start to naturally change based on having that accountability set in place. You told everybody,
You've
you
burned the
got it.
boats. You've
Yeah.
burned the boats.
Hmm. Can you do that with everything? What about not even a necessarily physical activity? Could you do that with setting business goals? Can you
Of
do you do
course.
that? Like, do you
Of course.
personally do that?
Set a meeting date. You got a meeting date with all your VPs, and you guys got to go over something, and you got to have your deck ready. And of course, otherwise, if there's no date, it's not real. It's not real. It's like maybe you do it, maybe you don't do it. You'll get to it tomorrow.
Which leads to rock bottom hell, man. You let that go on for long enough, you end up where you are in a position where you fucking have to do it. Otherwise, something really bad could happen. And so,
99% of the world is living in that hell. They're not being held accountable. They're
hmm.
not holding themselves accountable. They're not getting it done. They're just kind of sleepwalking through life.
Putting aside being held accountable by external circumstances or forces, like telling your buddy that I'm going to be doing this, do it with me, kind of a thing. How can you internally, by yourself, be able to find that accountability in a way that it's serious? Because yes, you can set the date, And not all of the things are tangible in terms of setting a date in terms of actual run, and you're going to have to run on that date. With other business goals or with goals in general that don't have that advantage, how do you internalize that motivation? How do you really unlock that fear that drives you artificially when there's no concrete date to do it externally?
You know, again, if you've spoken enough in public to enough people and you've looked in the mirror enough, you could hold yourself to that high standard that you don't need the world to. But it's rare. It's rare. It's hard. It's hard for folks to do that. They'll tend to slip into their own habits. They'll not do the work for all the reasons that I mentioned. So, you know, the more you can speak out loud to all your friends and family on who you are, what you stand for, and what you do, you may be the kind of person that doesn't want to be a fraud. I don't want to be a fraud. And so I do the work whether there's 10 people there or no people there.
What about the identity you have to step into? Because we're talking about an identity shift at the core of it. You know, you're moving from somebody who identifies as somebody who doesn't run to, on this date, I am a runner. So there's a shift in beliefs that has to take place in order for you to view yourself.
Who do you got to decide who you want to be.
Yeah.
If you want to continue to walk around saying you're not a runner or you don't eat healthy or you're not the first in the morning, well, you know, that's who you're going to be. Start, yes, making that shift and start stating to yourself and your brain and to others who you are.
Mm.
And magically, you will become that person. It's
In present
incredible.
tense, who you
Yeah,
are, not who I will
yeah.
be, who I am right now. And you,
No, this is who I am.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you continue to say you overeat, you're lazy. That's what you're gonna overeat and be lazy.
But if you say that I am this thing, you'll have a complex, your voice that says, well, hold on a second. You're not this thing. How do you get past that belief or that naysaying voice, the annoying roommate, as Ariana Huffington put it, to be able to move into the action? What's
Look,
your
I think you're always gonna question it, always,
Yeah.
and that's just part of the deal. That's
So,
part of the deal.
all
You're
right.
gonna question, you know, when I say things, I want to change 100 million lives. It's a big number.
Yeah.
I got 90 million to go. I don't know if I can get that done or not. When Elon Musk says we're gonna fly this rocket and we're gonna have it land by itself back, he doesn't know if he's gonna get it done or not. And so he's got questions in his head.
Hmm.
I've got questions, you've got questions, but we act and we fake it till we make it.
What are some beliefs you have about yourself that allows you to be able to fake it until you make it? Some beliefs that you've
Mm.
developed over the years that have allowed you to unlock these extraordinary
Well,
achievements.
yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of times, just this week, I'm with my buddy. It's 11 o'clock at night. It's 3 hours past my bedtime. And he asked me, are we still getting up and we're going to work out in the morning? What time? I said, same time. Standards don't change. Do I want to wake? No, I don't want to wake up early. But over the years of just pounding myself into submission,
Ha.
I've gotten to a place where I hold to the standards. And I also got to a place where I just don't feel good if I don't hold to the standards. I feel
Mm.
worse not doing than I feel doing. And so that's magic.
You've installed a fear of well, a belief that not doing it will be worse than doing it. No matter how much you don't want to fucking do it in the moment, you're waking up, you got 3 hours less sleep that night, but you get up and do it anyways because you know that if you don't do it, it's gonna be worse than when you if you did do it. But a lot of
Yeah.
people don't have that belief, man. How did you install that to begin with? How did you know to be able to set that as a standard for yourself to be able to actually live it in a way that's not just compromised and said, "Oh, I'll just do it tomorrow," kind of a thing. Succumbing to that voice.
I think, you know, I was in a neighborhood. I grew up in a neighborhood that was mostly organized crime and a bunch of hustlers, and those people were just getting after it all day, every day.
It
You
gives you
got left
energy.
behind.
The con
Yeah,
man got a lot of energy, man. It's funny how that works.
you know, you get left behind, and so you had to play, you know, at the big boy table. And then my mom was pretty stoic. She would, you know, I watched her meditate once for 30 days straight, fat, without, like, it was unbelievable. She used to
Wow.
run 10 miles in the morning, 10 miles at night. Like,
Hmm.
so if you're around it, you get a little taste of it. I think, and then I've run businesses. I started running businesses in my preteens. And when we used to pull the trucks in at night, sometimes it was 10, 11 o'clock at night. I got to get up at 5 in the morning. But if I didn't clean the truck, if I didn't do the billing, if I didn't take care of all the work I was supposed to do that day, I fell behind. So at a very young age, I saw myself fall behind, not send out the bills, not get paid, not be able to make payroll. They had really negative domino effects on the business and ultimately me. And so we got an 11:30, good. Let's clean the truck. Let's get it organized for the morning. We got an 11:30, good. Let's get the billing done for like I learned at a very young age that if I didn't do the work, no matter what external forces happened, I had to get the work done. Otherwise, I fell behind and it was very painful.
Hmm. And you saw that in your mother growing up. What are some lessons you learned from her? Sounds like a fascinating woman. It's crazy.
Yeah, the biggest thing I learned from her was it doesn't matter what the world is saying, even your near term surrounding world or folks like no one was buying into yoga, meditation, health food in the 1970s. And but she believed in it.
Hmm.
She was bought in. And so she fought the whole world, myself, my father. They got divorced, my sister. None of us, we thought she was a nutcase with all this nonsense. We wanted eggplant parm heroes and we wanted to watch television and go to the movies and eat popcorn. But she was pushing something she believed in, she was convinced was right. And it didn't matter that everybody around her said she was nuts. She just kept marching forward. So the biggest thing I took away was like, if it's in your heart of hearts and you know it's the right thing, like, doesn't matter what people are saying. Don't worry about what people say.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast, and I want to let you know that I've got a free book that you can get if you want to tap into more of these resources. And you can get that for free at kylesbook.com. Back to the podcast.
How has that affected the way you make decisions and look at the world now? I mean, compared to a lot of people don't have a mother like that, to say the least. How is having that experience growing up affected the way that you look at the world now?
Spartan was started because of it, right? Like the world was not ready for Spartan. I'm asking people to do
Mm,
burpees,
mm.
asking people to go to bed early, take cold showers. So that all comes from exactly what I described with my mom. I mean, that's where that comes from. My dad was a workaholic. He was a maniac, but he didn't take care of himself. So it's hard to play. It's hard to play like an Olympian in in business if you're not taking care of your health and wellness.
As I'm experiencing right now, man, I'm having a hard time sleeping at night because I'm not getting enough physical exercise. And I justify it being like, okay, I'm making a lot of money. If I go for a run, it would cost me X amount of dollars. But really, the reverse is true because if I don't go for the run, then I'm not able to sleep at night. And then that cascades the domino effect downwards. And so, really, I guess what it is zooming out to the big picture and looking at what would happen if I didn't do this, if I continued to not do this, as opposed to what could happen if I did do that, and really starting to paint the picture of both the positive and negative there. But really you do that unconsciously. You learn from a very young age that you don't have to consciously go through the steps like a lot of people do. You just know straight up it's going to be worse if I don't do it. So you will yourself to do it no matter what. And you learned that from, I guess, your mom and your dad, if your dad was a workaholic too. But what are some, I mean, like, you learned, well, put it in your words for me. How would you say that your dad's workaholism affected the way that you look at the business landscape now? How has that
Well,
changed?
I mean, I saw him always working, so that allowed me to be a workaholic myself because it
Right.
just normalized and galvanized that lifestyle in my brain. So it's no wonder I'm a workaholic.
Galvanized it. Interesting. Yeah. Would you recommend that to your kids?
I already have kids that are like that, and part of me is like, shit, I wish they'd put down the phone or that computer. I'd like to talk to them right now, but part of me is like, I get it. I've passed that on.
Hmm. Do you recommend it to people watching that workaholism is good? It's like an addiction that's celebrated in our society. What's your
I like,
opinion?
I'm a buyer. I'm a buyer of work. I like, are you adding value to the world or are you taking things from the, you know what I mean? Like, sure, we could all sit around and we could smell the roses and we could hold hands and high five and dance every night and drink and do, but like, are we really adding value to the world? What about that guy, that man or woman that builds a bridge and is sweating all day, every day for 10 years to make sure that bridge doesn't collapse, and all the engineering work and construction work that had it all, like, those are amazing things that people bring to the world, but it requires that maniacal focus, incredible dedication that the rest of us label workaholic, crazy person, right? Like, you want to do great things, requires some imbalances.
Yeah, I think there's a point there. You know, you don't see Elon Musk. Well, this is another point though. You also, and I could be wrong, but I don't see him spending too much time outside running around or doing cardio, for example. Yet
He
he's still
should,
able.
he should,
And
he should.
I agree, but he doesn't. Or I don't know. As far as I know, he doesn't, and he's still able to accomplish amazing fucking things. So I mean, you're saying that he would be able to accomplish more, have more energy, be able to be healthier and do that if he was
I
spending
think
the
so.
time
I
for
believe
himself.
so. And I believe maybe his tweets would not be as crazy as they are.
Interesting. So you look at it like a, a mental health cure, something that can manage the way that you look at yourself in the world, and as opposed to taking medication or quick fixes like a lot of people would tap into. You're you go the all natural route, but the question still is, how does somebody who's not habituated to that lifestyle really start to take it on? And you're talking about setting a date, visualizing both the negative and positive, what could happen. What are some other things that we can tactically do to really start to take on this identity and make these shifts?
The ancient Spartans believed that their hardcore lifestyle that they were asking their society to live could never have been achieved if they didn't have like-minded people in one place. So
Mm,
go live around the people that are acting the way you want to act.
mm,
If you want to smoke and drink all day, go move next to a bar, I guess, right? If you want to be great at golfing, go move to a golf course.
mm.
If you want to get after it and you want to be healthy and fit and you want to achieve whatever success you're trying to achieve, economically, move yourself around those people.
Mm.
Very rare that it's going to work without that. You got to be around like-minded people that are pulling you up in life, not dragging you down.
Who were some of the people that you were around, as opposed to not your mother and father, but who are some people that have been an inspiration to you that being around them has been able to allow you to move into the echelon that you're at now?
Well, definitely all the bosses, the organized crime bosses were interesting, right? Because they were, even though, say what you want, they weren't all good people. They weren't certainly doing good things, but they grinded. They definitely set a tone that could be followed. All the business owners I met over the years that own small businesses, medium sized, large businesses that I got to watch and learn from. So, and by the way, I just don't want to be around low performers. So I couldn't sit here and say, oh, I was with this group of no, people that weren't getting after it in life and hustling. I just never really wanted to be around.
What was it like growing up with the mob bosses, dude? Because like you learn lessons from them, and you've been able to take that and use it in positive ways. And you could say they weren't helping people, but generally speaking, they're actually pretty charitable for their community a lot of the time. And so, yes, I look at it as the darkness pushes light, and so they've got a lot of energy from the dark energy they're leveraging, and that allows them to then do good. Not saying that it's the optimal path to go be a mob boss, but what are some of the things that you learned from them growing up that affected the way you view the world?
My first customer was the head of the banana organized crime family, and he said, Joe, if you're supposed to be here at 8 a.m., you show up 7:45. On time is late. He said, if you're supposed to clean the pool, I also want you to clean the windows, the shed, straighten up the lawn furniture, even though you're not getting paid for that.
Hmm.
And number three, he said, don't ask for money. If you provide value, you'll get paid. Three great lessons that I never expected to learn. You know, another boss said to me, the best thing we could do on this planet is help people. I thought, wow, that's a crazy statement coming from, but like you said, darkness pushes the light.
Mm. You still in contact with them?
Well, there's not many of them alive, but there's a few that are still in jail. Yeah, we'll see.
Where do you live now?
Hmm. I'm in Florida right now as I speak to you. We have our farm in Vermont, which is where Spartan was born, but I've been spending a lot of time down in Florida lately. My
Mm.
kids are going to school here, and we're building a headquarters here in Florida.
At headquarters. Tell me about it. What are you building?
Well, I was having a tough time in Boston getting people back into the office post-pandemic.
Ah, yeah.
So I needed to get some fresh blood, some excitement, people that I could pull together into one office.
So when you're hiring somebody, when you're looking for people with that fresh blood, the flesh blood, as the slip almost came out, the fresh blood that you're talking about, right? How do you know who's going to be a good hire? How do you know who's going to have that piss and
I'm
vinegar in
just
the
I'm
blood?
just looking I'm just looking for energy. If you know, business requires a lot of energy. And if somebody's got, good, positive, high energy and they want to get after it, I'm interested.
Does that mean that they have to work out? I mean, do you have that correlation where one has to
I
equal the other?
No, I suggest it. I can't mandate it. I hope they do it.
But do you find that most of them do to have that energy?
Yeah, the downside, the real paradox here is if they're spending all their time working out, they're not working.
Right, you gotta have that balance, eh?
And we got to work in order to get people working out. So it's a very
Interesting.
complicated thing.
What about personality traits? What do you look for in an employee? How do you know they're going to be a good fit?
Diligent, high energy, honest, smart, not asking for everything.
All right, all right. When you say high energy, what are you talking about? You talking about like somebody who's banging off the walls back and forth? So what's high
No,
energy?
no, they don't have to bang off the walls, but they're not an energy sucker. When you when
Ah,
you when you're around them, you're getting energy from them, not losing energy.
right. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, there's a huge difference there, right? It's something you kind of feel
Yeah,
in your gut when you meet somebody if they're going to be a sucker or a giver, and you look for the natural givers, and then leverage and amplify that ability and that energy within them.
that's right.
Interesting. Oh man, what about the marketing end of things? I mean, you've achieved incredible feats and results as a result of who you are and what you've done, but then also as a result of the marketing that you've been able to incorporate. I mean, you've given people a brand or an identity that they step into. They're a warrior as opposed to somebody who's lackluster and not having that energy. What's been your marketing secret sauce? You know, if you were to put it in a few words.
Overspend.
Ah! Come on, man. What are you talking about?
I mean, I spent more money than a small country building this brand, and that's it in a nutshell. Tell a good story,
Mm,
stand for something,
right. Don't be afraid to
stand
make
for
enemies.
something,
Yeah.
and tell a good story, and spend, 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 baby, spend.
When it comes to telling that story, because I don't want to overspend. I don't know if you want to overspend, you try to get it as lean as possible. So you want to tell as good of a story as possible because then that's gonna help people step into what they need to do to be a customer of yours. What's your secret to telling stories, man? How do you tell a story that captivates people and encapsulates the message you're trying to give?
I think we tell a good story. I had somebody yesterday say to me, "Hey, you should take acting lessons, Joe. You're so stoic that when you're talking in these stories or you're talking down to people. And I certainly don't mean to do that. I think I'm asking so much of people that that is annoying for a recipient of that information, right? And that's probably why over time politicians just give shit away, because it's easier to sell somebody than having people look in a mirror and say, like, oh, can you
Mm.
imagine if whoever our president was came out and said, here's the deal. It's going to be better for the country if everybody wakes up early in the morning. So we're gonna sound alarm bells at 5 a.m. We're gonna have everybody take cold showers. We don't need to destroy the environment, and it's better for your vagus nerve, and it's better for your life in general. You'll get sick less, which will take pressure off our, the medical side of our economy. We're gonna make all the kids do burpees when they go into, like, that would be a really tough sell. And so I try to tell good stories about our brand and what we stand for, but it sounds more like that, what I just described, than lollipops, rainbows, and sunshine.
And so you tap into the people that are naturally predisposed to be receptive to that. The people who need that kick in the ass as opposed to the, "Oh, it'll be okay, honey," that kind of a thing, You were going for the people, and it comes down to standing for what you believe at the end of the day, which is interesting as opposed to just trying to speak to everybody at the end of the day. And that's been the secret more or less. Speaking to
That
who.
is that is definitely a secret. Waffles is looking for me to let him in. Hang on 1 second.
All right,
Yeah.
man.
Waffles wants back in. Waffles is in the house.
So let
All
me ask
right.
you this then, man. You're a fascinating dude. What's a question I should be asking you that I'm not asking, but if I were to ask, would help you spew some gold right now?
What do I want it to say on my tombstone?
Great question. What's the answer
Right?
to that?
Here's a guy who worked hard. Here's a guy who worked hard and tried to get everybody to eat more salad and exercise more. That's it.
You like the
Super simple.
simplicity, eh? The
Yeah.
simplicity is another secret sauce, I think.
Hang
Interesting.
on. He's hold on. We're trying to get Waffles out of the house here. Hang on. Good. Go with Alberto. Hang on. Sorry about that.
Okay, man. So those are your values. You value simplicity as the meta, and then that kind of it's very simple. Why those things as opposed to other things?
I think hard work is really attractive. I think blood flow. I believe hard work's really attractive. I believe blood flow is the key to life. We've got to move blood around. And I also believe that no matter how nice we are, if we're in the food industry, we make more money. We're motivated to sell garbage. We're motivated to sell garbage. We make more money, we sell more of it, and people are more addicted to that. So if I really want to impact the world, which I do, get people working harder, get people eating more salad, and get blood moving. It's that simple. We
What about
wouldn't have to have all these discussions in the White House and, in Congress about all this nonsense. Just,
yeah? What about the food part of it? You talk about eating salads. Is that it? What do you eat
I
on a
think
day-to-day basis?
we eat too much processed food.
Yeah, no shit. So what do you eat?
Ultra processed food's the killer. You're better off eating the cardboard box.
So what do you eat? What's the alternative for you?
I ate a lot of salad. I slip here and there. I just had some Chinese food, but it's clean as I can get it. You know, I don't completely go off the rails as often as most people. I really pay attention to my diet.
Hmm. No cheat days.
There's always a little bit of cheat in there, but my cheat is not as severe as others.
Mm.
I had a guy, He was eating 8 Egg McMuffins and drinking 2 2-liter Sprites. That's a serious cheat.
Yeah, that's a cheat that'll ruin the rest of it.
Yeah.
Putting aside the food, the sleep, and the working out, what are some things that, aside from all of those, what are some things you can do to improve your energy, improve your life, get the blood flow going?
Definitely the cold showers.
Yeah.
Definitely every chance you get in an airport, anywhere, take the stairs, walk, park 2 miles away from the grocery store. Like definitely get those steps in.
Mm.
Stairs instead of elevators. Drink a lot of water. Not that hard.
You actually do that? Come on, you park 2 miles away from the grocery store.
Why not walk to the grocery store? I walked there 3 times this week.
Depends
Don't
on where
even
you
just
live. I live in the middle of nowhere. It'd be like a 15-mile walk, which would be good for me, but bringing the bags back would be a big pain in the ass. It'd be better to park two
make
miles
sure
away.
they're structurally sound bags.
And then the extension of that is make sure your body is structurally sound to be able to put up with the weight.
Yeah.
Right, and what about the preparation of it? I mean, like yes, you're prepared for anything, but at the end of the day, what's the fear that drives you? What are you built for? I mean, you said that the fear is a big proponent, a big driver of the motivation. What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is not getting enough done, not hustling enough.
How do you know you
So
get enough done?
I don't know. I've had this recurring dream my whole life that, my hands are tied, literally tied, and I just can't get more done that I'm trying to get done.
When did that start?
Young age.
You talking to a psychologist about it?
No, I don't believe in psychologists.
No, why not?
The reason I don't believe in them is, when I think about the third world countries, they don't really have that many psychologists. So I say to myself, it's really a first world problem. Like, if you stay in a zone where you're just trying to like feed yourself and survive and put, shelter over your head, there's really not a lot of time to chit chat about this luxurious, problem you have. Like, I don't know. I mean, yes, do I like coaches giving me, of course. Would I love, talking to a psychologist about ideas on how to be better? Of course. But like, there's over 500,000 psychologists in America. There's probably none in Guatemala. Like as we get more stuff and we have more freedom, we've got this luxurious thing, time where it's a devil. It gets us in our own heads. And then if you sit down with a psychologist, my feeling is you perpetuate. I know my daughter's here now. Come on in. My daughter's here with Waffly Waffles. Come here. Come on the podcast. Come on, answer some questions. Say hello.
Hi. So what drives you then? Let's answer some questions.
What motivates you?
What have you learned from your dad in terms of motivation?
Yeah. What are you like talking to the camera? Right now you can't see your head. So like give us here, you sit here for a second.
No, failure motivates me.
Failure. You don't want to fail?
No. If I fail, it motivates me to get better.
Well, why don't you just not fail to begin with?
Well, then I can't learn that.
I like that.
Smart girl. You taught her well.
Yeah. I like that. Sit here for a second while I wrestle with waffles.
All right, man. So what about this is interesting. What about the fear of failure? Does that drive you? The feeling afraid of it happening? No.
I'm not scared of failing, but
Speak loudly.
I'm not scared of failing, but failing is like it motivates me to get better.
When you do fail, and
Yeah.
then you know what not to do next time.
Yeah, then yeah.
But like your dad said, why do you just not fail in the first place? It'd be easier.
Well, yeah, it would be easier, but then I wouldn't know what then I wouldn't know like that, like then I would learn from my mistakes and then get better from that. And then I can use, if I didn't study that time, then I can study more on the topic that I need to study on.
Interesting.
So
Hmm.
so I can prepare myself for the finals or the CTP.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. If you were to describe your dad in a couple words, how would you describe him?
Hmm. Okay. Motivational, crazy, and
Hmm.
hardworking.
Do the three go together, you think? You have to be crazy to be motivational and hardworking?
Yeah.
Oh man, Joe, you taught her well, man.
He's not in the room anymore. He took waffles because waffles has heartworm. So when he
Yeah, yeah.
coughs, he sometimes throws up, and he just threw up there because he was coughing so much.
It happens, man. I got a dog too. Yeah, it's a part of it. But when did you get waffles?
2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, brand new. Hey, did you go to the shelter and pick them up or?
Well, my dad, he sent me a photo of the dog. He said he like a couple weeks before he even got the dog, he said, I'm gonna try and save him because Waffles was at a kill center.
Hmm.
So then he went and got the dog delivered to our house. Well, not delivered, but someone drove the dog to our house. And then now we're trying to heal him from being sick.
What lesson did you learn from that? How's that going to help you later on?
I don't know.
What about caring for the people who, or the things or animals who can't help themselves and using that as motivation in terms of
It's a
the
good thing
fear
to
of what
help,
happening?
but you have to ask certain people before you bring a dog into the house.
Did you learn that the hard way?
Yeah.
Oh man, Joe, you in the room? Is he back?
Yeah.
I'm back.
You taught her well, man. Interesting kid. How old is she?
How old are you? She's 11.
That's awesome, man. Let's end it with this, brother. How'd you develop such a stoic, authentic personality? Because I feel like you're the same person with
Listen, you grow up in a neighborhood where guys go away for 25 plus years, and you see people die. Your parents die at a young age.
Hmm.
So you become.
How do you think somebody can artificially generate that without that happening to them?
Move to a favela in Brazil or move to a really rugged place in India.
Hmm.
We see the scene in Batman Begins with Christian Bale, where he's from a rich house, which most of us are from very wealthy homes. Whether it's a wealthy home or not, it's wealthy
In
compared to the rest of
comparison,
the world.
yeah.
So go live in a really shitty, tough place, struggle for a year, you know.
Do you put your kids through that intentionally, knowing that you have the ability to give them a plush, nice, pain-free, relatively pain-free life, but
They
you
have a
allow
they
them?
have a very, very easy life, and I torture them. Even with my torture, even with the death camp that I put them through, and the exercise every day, and speaking, man, even with all that, they have a very easy life.
What about the conundrum of, yeah, you're willfully putting your kids through torture, knowing that it's they need to go through that pain to be able to grow into the person that they need to become. But then at the same time, you could also look at it as you got to protect them from that. Where do you find that balance between the two? It's tricky.
Always go the hard way.
Always go the hard way, eh?
If we lived in a really, really tough environment where life was hard, I'd say let's get a couch and some penicillin. But we
Mm,
live in a Netflix, Uber Eats world, and so always choose the hard way. It'll
mm,
never be hard enough.
interesting. Mm. A favela in Brazil. Or Guatemala, where there's no it's an interesting way of putting it, man. I agree with you. You got to go through some pain to be able to
Yeah,
develop the
yeah.
fortitude and determination to be able to get through anything. You got to believe that you can get through everything, no matter what life throws at you. You can get through it.
I believe that as long as I'm alive, things are good, whether I get through it or not. Like,
Hmm.
how was your flight? The plane landed,
What
you
do you tell
know?
yourself when quote unquote bad shit happens? How do you reframe it?
It's not that bad. I'm alive. It's not that bad. It's never that bad. Bad is dead.
Maybe. Depends on, what about your spiritual beliefs?
I went to Catholic school for 8 years when I was a kid. I go back and forth on the whole thing. I guess just like everybody else, when shit's hitting the fan, I ask God for things. But then my latest idea, last 7, 8 years is, there's a Spartan prayer we came up with, and it basically says, God, everybody's asked you for the good stuff. You probably don't have any left. Give us the worst shit you got. Give us the toil, the torment, the frustration, and the strength to deal with it. Just promise me you'll keep it coming. So, the Spartan community and I joke back and forth. I'll get a text or an email that says, I hope you have a shitty day. Because that's what we hope for, right? Tough, challenge, obstacle, and the strength to deal with it.
Looking back, it's easy to look at it like that. All the bad shit, quote unquote, that happened to you, you look
Made you
back
better.
and you're most
Yeah.
grateful for those as opposed to the good things that happened to you, the things that you liked at the time.
Exactly.
Let's leave it at that, man. Fascinating individual, fascinating conversation, dude. Thank you for being here, and we'll keep
Thanks.
in touch.
You're awesome.
I
Take care.
appreciate you, man. You too. Ciao.
All right.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that podcast episode. And if you want to get a free copy of my book, go to kylesbook.com and you can get a copy there. I'll talk with you soon.